December the 19th, 1996, man. That's my first sermon. And my first sermon was entitled Love. It was Numbers chapter number 12.
And how old were you?
I was 12, man.
12.
I was 12. Church was packed, too. I don't know how I was petrified.
From New Orleans, with the Forstalls, this is Local Legends. One-on-one conversations with some of New Orleans' most exciting and influential business owners, entrepreneurs, movers, and shakers. They're here to give their take on all things going down in the Big Easy.
What is up, New Orleans? Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Forstall. In this very special segment today of our Local Legends, we have someone very special on our show. He has taken a church from just a few members, grew it to over 600 members. He's got a huge following on Instagram. He's killing it right now. So please help me welcome Pastor Everett. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, no, man. Thank you so very much for allowing us to come, man.
Absolutely. And I've it's not my first time meeting you. You're an amazing person. You have such an inspirational story from where you came from.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to talk to you, and we're going to talk about all the successes. But first, I want to talk about your, where you came from. Take me back to 10-year-old Pastor Everett, little Pastor Everett. Tell me, what was he like?
Wait, hold on. I have to do it.
All
I've
right,
been wanting to do it my entire.
Just do it.
Cheer for a star. Take.
All right.
I got that out the way.
JT's got to be on the next commercial, all right?
I got this. 10-year-old Jonathan Everett was living in efficient housing development. We call it the projects, right? On what we call Big Whitney. And at that time, man, we were going through several life changes. I was born on Eagle Street in the 17th and stayed in the Callio for a couple of years, and then we moved to the efficient housing developments. My mother and them, of course, we were all they were in the whole drug community and selling it. And I'm the 10-year-old kid that was going to Mara Henderson Elementary School, who, when we had parents and teacher conferences, everybody else's parents showed up except mine, right? And I can walk right across the street to the project and see my mother shooting dice in the breezeway, right? And so that's the 10-year-old Jonathan, shooting marbles, running through breezeways. Several times in the morning, the cops kicked down our door, woke up to some heavy artillery guns and all those type of things. So we've been through that, right? 10-year-old Jonathan, man. And so we kind of like in the mix of it. I have 11 brothers and sisters.
11 brothers.
11 brothers
12.
and sisters, man. Yeah. 11
so where
brothers
do you
and sisters.
fall?
I'm number 7.
Number 7.
I'm the bridge between both generations. So I couldn't pick a side, man. That generation over here and this generation. So we've always been the neutral guy, right? And so even to this day, my brothers and sisters look at me as that neutral guy. So that's the 10-year-old Jonathan.
Absolutely. It sounds like, had a rough childhood, it sounds like with the parents. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And being a big family like that, I've come from one of 3.
Yeah.
My dad comes from one of 8. How is being raised by a big family, and being one of 12?
Yeah.
How has that shaped you, going forward?
Well, it diversifies your social life, right? It allows you to see life in so many different phases and transitions, whether it's my older brother and sisters, whether it's my younger brother and sisters. I was able to see it, right? I was able to see my brother get in trouble, what to do, what not to do. I was able to see my sisters grow up and understand their perspective of manhood and masculinity and also their femininity. But also I was able to turn right back around and pass those lessons down in real time to my younger brothers and sisters because I was absorbing it from the older generation. And then they'll come and they'll teach me and walk me through certain things. So socially, it brought my capacity to have width to be able to touch each generation. And I didn't have to be locked into a particular generation. So being born in that house, I'm going to say being a part of that family, man, it was, it was, it was a lot, man. It was never a dull moment with that family.
Not with 12 kids.
No. It's like, if that side of the house is quiet, I can guarantee the other side is popping right now, right? If we're not inside, we are the outside playing basketball. My sister and them playing jacks and double dutch. Somebody down the street gonna come because our house, my mother was, she was someone like the same thing, the median for our entire family, right? So all my cousins and my aunts, they used to always come by us. They had smaller families. So they all used to kind of, migrate over there to our house. I had cousins that wouldn't even go home. They'll come stay with us for like 2 months.
Yeah, so that was y'all's was a house.
It was the house. Every holiday, Mardi Gras, Christmas, Thanksgiving, they come into the house, man. And so it was never, once again, it was never a dull moment. Unfortunately, it's a pro and it's a con to it as well, because it teaches you how to stay active. You don't understand what rest is. You don't understand what silence is, right? Somebody asked me one time, you going to move to the country? I'm like, nah, that's too quiet.
But that's probably, giving you the tools and everything, what you need to be successful.
Right now.
Now.
The psychology of human anatomy, right, to understand it. Theology is one perspective, but if you don't understand the psychology of people, you can't really help them, right? You can't help them digest what it is that you're saying. And so, like I say, it sharpened my skills communicatively. It sharpened my skills to have sympathy and compassion and be sensitive, knowing when to pull back, not to overly insert myself into certain conversations and certain situations. It taught me, problem solving. It taught me conflict resolution. I mean, it's so much, man. It was right there with that big old family. Because she wasn't letting us go to sleep mad or fighting each other. Nah, it's either we don't come to a general conclusion of that argument, she was going to help us come to that.
Right. Mama's got to do mama, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
That's right. Yeah. So you're a New Orleans native through and through.
Through and through,
Absolutely.
Man.
So tell me, how did New Orleans influence you culturally as a young man?
I've traveled in multiple continents, lived in D.C. for 6 years. There is absolutely no place like New Orleans. I'm telling you, man. We go to Dubai, all that stuff. All that's nice. We done been to. There is no place on this planet that you can come here and be immersed in a culture that is so wide that your capacity of self-existence doesn't get absorbed in it, but you're able to have the liberty to really express yourself. Just think about it, man. Second line's walking down the street, you just dancing. You ain't crazy. They ain't gonna admit you on the third floor of Charity. But you can just express yourself. And then you can go a couple of streets over to a nice crawfish ball, right? Everybody just sitting around just talking. And then you can leave there and go to a football game. Like, it's like those different type of, it's just amazing, man.
Yeah, it's just the word's community, right? It's
through and through,
right?
But the joy of appreciating what we have, creating a culture that we're able to really, really, really embrace and not be ashamed of it. And I was telling a lot of politicians when they was calling me, I was like, man, one of the things that we have to really press upon is the pride of New Orleans, right? We have a pride about ourselves.
Absolutely.
No matter where we go. We want you to know we're from New Orleans. Yeah, don't confuse us with Mississippi. Don't confuse us with Alabama.
Texas.
We start talking, I'm going to say baby 3 times so you can catch it. I got to give it to you because I don't want you to be like, oh, yeah, he got that straw, but it sounds like you from Mississippi. No, I'm from New Orleans,
That's right?
Because it's a pride, man. It's you can't find it nowhere else. And everybody I've invited to this city, they love it. They just can't leave it. And
I have several friends that have come down from New York and everywhere else for college. They never leave. They never leave. That's amazing. So at what point did church start becoming into your life?
Man, my mother was facing 90 years to life, and my stepfather was facing 70 years to life. And the person that stepped in at that time, you had the Harry Connie Sr., you had Canizero, and you had all those people around the DA office who was trying to decide her fate, right? And the person that stepped in that took her under his wings and took full responsibility for her freedom was my late pastor, Reverend Emmett B. Watson. He used to pastor Little St. John Baptist Church right there across from the Callio Project. And at this time, the Callio Project is bumping. I mean, Mr. Ice Cream Man is out. They selling tapes out the trunk of the car. But he was a pastor from Albany, Georgia. And he owned a rec yard out there in the east. He owned a gas station. And what he did was sign over to take full responsibility for my mother and her well-being and her freedom. And so I said, man, if a pastor was able to step in as a liaison to really help her, he was a civil sheriff. And so I was like, wow, I can't believe that just happened just now. I was in trial with my mother, right? I would go and sit in the back of that courtroom every single time she had to, appear in court. And so when I started preaching at the age of 12, man, I was like, I'll never forget it. We joked about it. December the 19th, 1996, man. That's my first sermon. And my first sermon was entitled Love. It was Numbers chapter number 12.
And how old were you?
I was 12, man. I was 12.
12.
Church was packed too. I don't know how I was petrified. I'm talking about knots in my stomach, headache. I was about to come up with all kind of excuses. And my pastor was, back then when you said you were called to preach, you had to be called to preach, not wanting to preach, not choosing preaching as a career. It's not something you just do on the side. You had to really explain your dream. You had to explain what the Lord said to you. Those older preachers would press you and say, so what was the dream? And if it didn't make sense, then you had to go through a trial sermon. If your sermon wasn't right, they'll tell you ain't called to preach. I came up around them older guys, man.
Wow.
Today's society, anybody can just jump up and say they're a preacher, and some of them using it as career paths. Some of them, if they can't succeed in other career paths, they decide to come over there to the church. But so when I got in at 12, and man, I never looked back. And so we start preaching. And I started following my pastor around. He was teaching me the do's and don'ts and understanding boundaries. And man, I remember my pastor show up at my school. I was at Liverdays Junior High, man. He'll pop up at my school, man. And one day I had my pants sagging. And he in front of everybody said, come here. He said, come here, pull them pants up. You can't preach in the pulpit and be living like this out here in the streets. And so I had to bring my report card every quarter to my pastor. And then one particular time, man, I had a horrible report card. I knew I had a horrible report card. And so I took it to him, man, and I couldn't say nothing in the church for at least a year. He was teaching me, man. He was teaching me certain fundamentals and certain things about this, if you're going to take this serious. And so I stuck in there. And so that's where I'm at today.
Wow. And so I want to go back to that first sermon about love.
Yeah.
At 12 years old.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the grit and the courage to get up on stage? How many people were in the
Man, they had to have about 300 people up in there, man. You talk about to faint. Yeah, I'm about to faint.
I still
for
get
real.
knots in my stomach. I go walk over 300 people. Come on, man.
I'm about to faint, man. The only thing that gave me comfort is once I had to bring my sermon, because you had to write the sermon down at that time. I had to bring it to my pastor. He had to redline it, right? What to correct, what to say. Don't be repetitive on this. It was Numbers chapter number 12. Moses married an Ethiopian woman. His brother and his sister got mad because she wasn't from their village, and the Lord struck them with leprosy. And Moses go to God and say, don't strike them with leprosy because of their flaws. I'm going to pray for them. And so I was demonstrating what love is beyond our afflictions and beyond what people think of us. And man, I'll never forget that sermon. Look, I don't know how well I did. I can articulate it better now, but I was petrified, man. You got that one auntie that's always she gonna make you feel like you the greatest person in the world. And once she told me I did a good job, I was nobody else couldn't tell me I did bad, man. So I probably did a horrible job, but she said I did a good job.
And that's what mattered.
That's what mattered.
And so did you feel good about it? But before Auntie said something, did that feeling that after you walked off the stage?
Yeah.
Was it a feeling of I'm never doing that again? Or was it feeling like, man, I'm on to something?
Man, I walked off and said I'm on to something because I watched the pride of my brothers, sisters. I watched my mother look at me a certain type of way. It's like that. It was like that. Okay, yeah. Look, it was a different look than when I first told him I was calling for When I first called it, no. But that time it was like, oh, it makes sense. He got something on him. You know what I mean? And so I walked away saying, long as they're happy, long as God happy, I was good.
Do you think that it was because it was so, much more work to become a pastor that it made you want it more?
That, and the other thing is I'm the first generation preaching pastor in my whole family.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the first one. The first one in the whole family to have preached and pastor a church. And so it was very odd for them it's like Noah building an ark, right? It's like, we don't need an ark. We never had rain. So to my family, it was like, where'd that come from? Every male in my family been in jail except for me. Wow. Yeah, so it was different. And then it took a while for them to embrace that. So at one point of coming up, I stopped going to family functions because they didn't know how to coexist with me in the same environment. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm in an environment, they'd be like, y'all can't cuss, y'all can't drink, y'all can't do this because he's in here. And I felt kind of bad. I started feeling bad. I was like, y'all can't not have, y'all gonna do it anyway, right? So
Right.
I don't want it to be a competition
Don't
between,
change 'cause of me. Yeah.
But then on the other hand, they can get carried away, you know, and so it was like my family was trying to embrace it. I was still trying to grow in it, not knowing what to land and going through school and stuff like that at the time. So I just stopped going to family functions and I pop in, stay for a few minutes, and then I
Show
leave.
your face. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Tell me about like the first, those early steps where you became a preacher on a regular basis, where you were, and tell me about that journey. And what was the father, the pastor that?
Emmett B. Watson. He was killed January the 3rd, 2003. And you probably heard, I know your dad probably heard of it, man. A guy, pastor got killed over a dump truck in off shelf. And I would preach for the youth services, and I preached throughout the city. And then after he left, man, he was like a father to me too, man, because I didn't meet my father till I was 14. So, but he was he'll call my mother and say, hey, bring my little preacher over here and don't bring him no clothes. We're going to Albany, Georgia tomorrow. And man, we'll get in that Dodge truck, man, and we're going to Albany, Georgia. And so, we'll preach very often. And then once he passed or was murdered, I went to Providence Baptist Church by Dr. Lawrence Sincere, who was also a family friend of my mother's. They grew up together. We would, before going to Little St. John, because of him stepping in and getting my mother freedom, we were going to Providence, but only on Easter. You put your sealsucker on, you put your little stride rights on, and you go to church. After church, you go eat all the chocolate. And once he got murdered, I went over there to Providence, and he, what they call, ordained me in our Reformation. And then after that, I preached like around the city, got my license, got ordained to be able to do marriages and funerals. And then I started preaching everywhere. I preached for Bishop Morton and Bishop Bristol and all these guys. I was one of the youngest preachers in the city at the time. So they would call me often to preach throughout the city, Franklin Avenue. I mean, it was like everybody. And it was good. I would say it was the most conflicting thing for an identity, because then you have to, grow up under the scrutiny of the church trying to find their own identity, and they try to place you. They'll say things like, "We in the world, but we're not of the world." It was like, "You can't go to your winter farm." I was like, "Hold 1 minute now." You mean to tell me I'm going to hell because I put on a suit and dance in the cafeteria? Nah, man. You get what I'm saying? Like, it was no such thing as going to Mardi Gras. They'll scorn you, man. They were sending us to hell back there. They're like, "You gonna go to hell if you go to your prom?" I was like, "But this is my life. I ain't coming to prom no more. You ain't gonna give me another prom." Right. They don't have prom in college, So it was those type of like challenges for me, identity and conscious wise, because I don't want to, do the wrong thing and disappoint God, number one. But then I don't want to do the wrong thing and embarrass my family, because remember, I'm the first preacher and I don't want to have a tarnished name. Sure.
I mean, you're doing all that when you're a kid,
too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Yeah.
Like kids want to do those things,
yes,
right? And so, I know it should be conflicting.
Yes. I wanted to ride around with the 6x9s and the big old 15 subwoofers. I wanted to blast all kinds of stuff, man, but it wasn't my fate, man.
So. Right, wasn't your calling.
Yeah.
So what were, I know I have a lot of my own, but what were some of those early lessons that you learned from early preaching from those days, from when you were bouncing around? What was some of the life lessons you took from, growing to go forward and growing?
One of the greatest lessons I've learned is people are not as mean as they are ignorant. People's perspective of me is a reflection of their own inward undevelopment or immaturity. I learned about people more than anything. So, it was a standard thing. Give me a microphone, put me in any size church, I'm going to preach. But it was how people treated you. It's how people looked at you. It's what people said about you. Some of the most cruel, vile things people would say, "Oh, you're a good preacher." Or, "He too loud." I was like, so what you do at the football game? Do you tell them quiet down, or what you going to do? It's like they'll judge church like they was judging a talent show or something. So, "Oh, he didn't wear the right clothes at that time." You know what I mean? They'll say some of the most craziest things in the world, but it taught me about people and how people can be so mean, man. And it doesn't matter if it's in church or outside of church. And so I grew up with this philosophy. Long time ago, I said, if you don't know me personally, I don't take nothing you say personal. You know
like
what I
that.
mean? I had to adopt that, because if not, on this side, preacher got to deal with everybody. It ain't no such thing as, you're a lawyer, man. You know the legal thing. We can't kick them out the church. It's an open worship center. And so you got to embrace everybody, right? And my pastor had to teach me this. He said, listen, one man can't see 1,000, but 1,000 can see that one man. He taught me that. He said,
I like that.
Yeah, he said you got to be careful.
like that
He
a
said
lot.
you might not see everybody, but everybody looking at you, and everybody have their own opinion, their own perspective, their own assessment of who you are, and you can't change or manage it. You can't manage all these people's expectations. You can't manage all of their processes or procedures on how they treat you. All you got to do is be you. And I had to learn that early. I had to learn that real early, man.
That's a good trait to learn, because it took me a while to learn just to be myself, and I think that's so important for everybody, because that's where you really thrive.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only, the other thing about that is the craziest thing about human psychosis of diversity and understanding the connection between other people, that people would want you to stay a version of you that only benefit them. Which cheats them out of the full, better version of who you're supposed to be. You get what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're
saying. And I'd be
right.
like, if you just let me become the person I'm supposed to become, how much greater the relationship would be, or how much greater the benefit would be.
Absolutely. And you'll probably like me better.
You'll love me better.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you love me at 50%, just imagine if I ever hit that 100, man. Don't cheat me out of becoming who I'm supposed to be because you want me to stay who I am.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So now let's talk about Rock of Ages.
Oh boy.
Oh man, how long you got?
Man, yeah. I got 13 years to talk about this one.
That's right. So tell me, what was Rock of Ages like? And for those who don't know, give us a little backstory. Obviously, I know, but tell us a little bit about Rock of Ages, and more specifically, what it looked like when you took over. What it looked like on day one for you.
Man, so I had just came back from D.C. I moved back from D.C. The Lord told me to come back. And at that time, man, I was working at United Bulk Terminal in Davant, Louisiana. And so I was doing the coal barges on the tugboat. And a friend of mine called me and said, hey, man, this church, Rock of Ages, in the 7th Ward, they need somebody to preach for them Sunday. And I was like, all right, cool. Just tell them to reach out, whatever. At that time, I was working 12-hour shifts. So I was working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on a Saturday. So Sunday morning, their service was at 8:30. I had to rush home, 45-minute drive, get dressed and get to church for 8:30. Man, I get there, and you wouldn't believe this scene. I pull up. The church sits in the middle of the block on North Tonti Street, little red brick church. And there's no cars in the front. So I don't know if they having church, they going to have church, who having church. And so I walk in there, man, there's only 3 people in the church. There's no AC unit on the church. There's no instruments in the church. And so I was like, man, is this like a prank or something? Like, they got to be pranking me.
Turn the lights on. Yeah.
So while I was in D.C., I was doing full-time ministry, managing 7 employees. Our budget per month was $120,000. Our revenue was $10 million a year. We had 3 churches. We had church in Pendleton, Haiti. We had 10 houses around us. A 50 apartment complex in Baltimore. I was in ministry. We had accredited schools. To go from there, right, I was making $180,000 a year up there. To come into a church with no
3
instruments,
people?
3 people, no AC unit. I like, the Lord playing with me at this point. You know. I like, what have I done you? For you to do that. But man, when I got in there, I did what they asked me to do, preach. And after the service was over, I never forget this. And I tell this story to all of our new members, right? I walk on through the side and the deacon, and I was like, who did the deacon over? Like, the 3 people is not 3 different families. The 3 people is the husband, the wife, the daughter. They all coming from one unit, And so I walk on the side, and the deacon say, yeah, Reb, we praying for a pastor. And I turn around and say, yeah, we got to keep praying. You got to keep doing it because I don't see it. I don't see it. I got in the car, And the Lord told me that was going to be the place for me to pastor. But I didn't tell a deacon. I didn't want the deacon to know that the Lord told me that. 6 months later, mind you, I never applied for the church. I didn't send them my resume. I didn't tell them about me at all. They called me on a Thursday night, right? And they said, we elect you as our pastor. I said, how y'all going to elect me? I never applied. I never told y'all I want to be y'all pastor. But when they came back and did that, I knew what the Lord told me. And so I started pastoring. The first day, we was $88,000 in a deficit with 3 members when I got there. From day one, we was 88,000. Hurricane Katrina, that church flooded. They had a church in Slidell help them. And so the church in Slidell said, listen, we're going to give y'all the labor free, just pay for the materials. And they never was able to pay for the materials to the sheetrock and all that kind of stuff. And so within a month, we was able to erase that debt, right? We got in, I just started working, right? We had 30 people join this Sunday, 45 the next Sunday, 15 the next Sunday. And I was like, I don't know where all these people coming from because I've never been here, you know? And so we started seeing like that type of growth then. That's 13 years ago. And then, man, the church is a historic church in the 7th Ward. It's 102 years of age, right? It's been around for some time, but it just never had that growing power that it was intended to have, right? Or destined to have. And then we just started, I'm community. So everything we've ever done has always been community. Block all streets, feed everybody for Easter, do this big old, thing for the kids, backpack giveaways, every Thanksgiving. We do this big old dinner on God where we feed the whole community. They can come get as much turkey, ham, whatever they want. And so on Wednesdays, these kids will come after school, eat, watch TV, and do their homework at the same time we're doing Bible study. So we've always done community, right? And so 1921, the pandemic happened, right? And so, but we was a little ahead of the curve because 4 years prior to the pandemic, we had already had our live stream set up, our camera crews and all that kind of stuff. So when the pandemic happened, we didn't have to shift. Like probably 95% of your churches in New Orleans had to buy cameras, had to buy systems, and had to buy different programs. We was already set. So when the pandemic happened, we just shifted to what we was doing anyway. And so we just seen this huge influx of people online. And I started a prayer line during the pandemic that we were seeing like 5,000 people every single morning, Monday through Friday, right, for 25 minutes. And then the craziest thing happened. We started seeing people transition from the prayer line once we opened back up to the building. So service was at 9:15, which still is to this day. If you didn't get to that church by 8 o'clock, you didn't have a seat.
Wow.
And it only seat like 275 people.
So you almost used COVID as like a catalyst to
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. And that prayer line was definitely the mainstream, because it was funneling everybody. And I thought about the psychological construct of all of us, right? We wake up, we go to work or school. After it's over, we do our little extracurricular activity at church, whatever it was. The pandemic, man, it just erased all of that. And then I started thinking about the main reason I started the prayer line. Here's my thought. The victims of domestic violence, the young women who've been raped, is staying with their rapers. And the young lady who get beat up, or the man getting beat up every day, they got to stay in that house all day with that person. There is no outlet. So I figure in the morning, let me just talk to them. Let me see if I can start their day off differently. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And so from there, man, you start seeing this. We were saying, I was like, I said, all these people. First, I ain't gonna front, Jonathan. I was waking up, t-shirt, wrinkle, glasses be like this. Wake up, I'm really just getting up doing it, right? And while I'm doing it, man, I'm seeing these numbers go. I like, oh, snap. So I really gotta put some lotion on my face and put a nice shirt on. And the craziest thing was going on, man, that I tell people, while the prayer line was growing, we send 5,000 people every single morning waking up. These are hard numbers. These are not fabricated numbers. These are hard numbers. Still to this day, we have close to that number now. And while that's going on, I'm going through a divorce at the same time.
Oh, wow.
You see what I'm saying? So, but I'm glad you brought that up about coming up and what my pastor taught me, because he taught me that no matter what's going on in your personal life, You got to stick to the program.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so I couldn't let that interfere with all that was going on. And I'm seeing this growth. And some people, man, they probably flip out to be seeing like, man, how the Lord can grow this and he couldn't keep this together. You know what I mean? All those doubt and those conflicted stories and questioning. And so, man, the more it grew, the more the church grew. And then after we was at 1921, and I told the church and told our leaders, I said, hey, listen, if this church stay packed like this for a whole year straight, then I'll consider moving. But until then, I ain't going nowhere because I don't want to inherit a debt and y'all going to leave me.
Right,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So after probably a year, Jamar McNeely, CEO of Inspire NOLA Schools, he called me. He said, hey, man, come on, man. I wanted to come to church and I can't come to church because if I don't get there at a certain time, you can't get in there, right? I said, yeah, that's true. He said, look, man, just go take 35 gym, auditorium. And that's on Cadillac Street, 4000 Cadillac Street. He said, look, we'll work out the numbers in the contract, but y'all go have service over there because you don't have no room. It only seat 845 people. Every Sunday that was packed.
Wow.
So we seen that a year to the date, the second Sunday of September. The very next year, the second Sunday of September, opened 2515 Franklin Avenue, what Franklin Avenue used to be. And me and Pastor Luda had a great conversation about what this mean about legacy and what this mean about legacy for our city. And that particular building, that particular space, turned the light back on Franklin Avenue. It was just a year later that we was in there. And that the capacity seating is, 2,000 in the sanctuary. You could put another 400 in the gym. And we've been saying that lately. So it just won't stop growing, right? Wow. We've had some amazing highlights. Ted Gormley 2 years ago. Last year. Well, we had in Ted Gormley, we had 10,000 people show up in the stadium for the very first time. Ted Gormley allowing, I promise you, I didn't think that was going to work. I'll be the first person to tell it. And I've never told nobody this story, Jonathan. Certain people, it was like, why he going to Ted Gormley and have church? And what he trying to prove? And I wasn't trying to prove nothing. Here's the truth. Nobody know this. I'm about to tell you what nobody know but three of my staff members. We didn't have nowhere to go anyway. Because the school, 35, was doing some renovations in the auditorium.
So you had no choice?
We had no choice.
Oh, my God.
I had to go somewhere else anyway. So I said, I'm not going to here or there. Man, let's go outside. And I wanted New Orleans to get back to New Orleans where Easter used to be outside, Easter egg hunting, the kids playing, and I didn't see it at that time. And me and Dickie Brennan talk about that all the time. We don't see that family outside picnics. You know what I mean? And so I said, how about having church at Ted Gormley outside on Easter Sunday morning? And then I started putting all the other pieces together, right? We dropped 10,000 eggs in the field. Half of the field we used for the stage and the other half we used for the eggs. And man, they wouldn't stop coming. We was ending service and people still was pulling up. Wow. They would not stop coming, man. And I had to sit there and let that sink in for a few minutes. I was like, and so what I did was I called other pastors who had big facilities. And I said, man, how was your service today? He said, oh man, we full to the brim. And I said, we had 10,000, y'all full to the brim. So we should never be in competition with one another. You see what I'm saying? Like, right. We should never be around here fussing about who have the members, you got my member, all that kind of stuff. Because if the individuals of New Orleans just showed us that if we all do what we're supposed to do, we all have enough space for enough people and into our capacity. So,
and my dad taught me a quote: "All tides, rising tides,
the rising tide,
yeah, rising tide,
rise of the tides,
floats all boats, and let's all win together.
It's all win together."
And your story is so amazing that it's it was a call. It was a call from God.
Yeah,
and you stuck with it.
Yeah,
and when you walked into that church, I mean, most people would get discouraged. What was that fire inside of you?
It's hard to fall down when you're on the floor anyway, right? Right? So in that perspective, for me, everything I've ever had started from the bottom. I've never been handed anything. There's not a person on this earth right now can say, I handed him a church. It's not a person say, I handed him this amount of money. It's not a person on this earth that can say, me and my mother have these dialogues all the time. She said, you just have this, and my counselor, my therapist said, you have this survival tactic in your head. It's a switch, right? Like when I get to a certain place, boom, just turn that thing on, and not necessarily looking at the conditions, because in my head, all conditions can change. I don't believe nothing is impossible. You know what I mean? And so I never had nothing handed to me. So I don't live with this sense of entitlement, like somebody is supposed to give it to me, or it's supposed to be a certain way in order for me to manage it. I just always, man, I feel like if that idea come to this little brain that I have, I got to see it through. I tell people all the time, no is the wrong answer when God say yes. I don't care who I got to talk to. You could turn me down 20 times. If he told me yes, I'm going to keep on coming until I get all I need is one yes. I could take 1,000 no's.
I love that.
You know what I
mentality.
mean?
Absolutely.
Hey, you can turn me down 20,000 times. I can take the no's. All I need is one yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's dedication. That's drive.
Yeah, that's that, man. That's that. I got to get it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of the same way. So I feel.
Yeah. I know. I see your face expression. Yeah, I think it's the Jonathan.
It's the Jonathan. That's what it is. It's the Jonathan.
But here's the thing, and this is the craziest thing, that so many people misunderstand that drive because they think you after something, right? They think you're trying to compete with somebody. They think you're trying to prove a point. That's something that I wrote in my book called Driven by Design. I said, life is really not about what you're running to as much as it's about what you're running from.
That's powerful.
You know what I mean? It's like about the cars and the house and all that kind of stuff. All that stuff is irrelevant. I just don't never want to go back to the projects.
I feel you.
You see what I'm saying? That's the drive. I don't want to have to sleep on a bunk bed with my brother and my other two brothers.
I've been there.
Yeah, I can't go back there. I can't go back there.
That way.
Yeah, whatever lies ahead.
That's where I'm going.
It is what it is. But I don't want a replica of that.
That's powerful. That's deep. That it stems from your childhood. And
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, your growth in your ministry, in your congregation, your ministry has been incredible.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to? Is it your preaching style? Is it just the word of mouth? Was it COVID? I mean, that sounds like a big, huge spike for you. But in those early days, you said, you started preaching in 45, 50, 60.
Yeah.
What was it?
I would contribute, and I was just talking to Mark Morial about this same. He asked the same question, and I said I would contribute that to just caring for people, man, just loving community. And at the time, New Orleans was losing that grip of the church being a catalyst for the community, not just giving away stuff. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about in that 7 Ward, man. On Saturdays, I would go sit on the porch with grandmothers and drink black coffee. I had a headache after I finished drinking that black coffee. But I was sitting there drinking that coffee, and then I would go, and some of those guys who's selling drugs, man, I was grab younger guys and give them jerseys and say, hey, man, let's go play against this other church in basketball. You see what I'm saying? Or I shine a spotlight on Hardin Park and say, the kids are unable to play basketball because they got to choose if they can shoot the ball or be shot by bullets. So I go to our police lieutenant and chief, and I say, hey, man, we got to do something about Hardin Park. We got to put these lights on. We got to fill these holes in this field. We got to redo this court. And even Councilman Green was telling me the other day the reason why they focus on Hardin for the Super Bowl this previous year because of what I've done through Mitch Landrieu administration and adopting the park and doing all those type of things. And so, outside of that, getting Urgent Care 11 to come off St. Claude and put one right next to the Walgreens on Broad because we was a medical desert. And then the food deserts, and looking at what that looked like. Talk to Big Duck, Jerome Smith, and he says, pass this to simplicity of service, And so I can attribute our growth to community, and then ultimately, of course, I contribute our growth to preaching the word of God because I don't play with people's feelings because I realize in the pews they're just as smart as I am now. So it's not just do what I say, right? They're very intelligent. Their IQ level are way higher now than it was back then. So it's not just one person is intelligent enough to articulate the word of God to everybody, but it's one person who's called who can galvanize all of us together, right?
And so has your preaching sermon style evolved and changed over the years to what it is today?
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So it moved, it became way broader the more I started experiencing and hearing the experiences of people and the depths of people pain, right? The psychology behind that is vitally true. You know, preachers, man, sometimes they can trigger their own audience. And sometimes preachers can hate the very people they call to serve. But the strength of preaching stands on the shoulders of the confidence of the preacher who's absolutely secure in who he is. He's not preaching for money. He's not preaching for fame. He's not preaching for hand claps. And I found that to be very relevant during the pandemic. Because you got to remember, man, during the pandemic, every church was a studio.
That's right.
Nobody there.
Right. Every place was a studio.
You ain't care if you just built a big one, a small, all of them studio. All you could do is sit up there with that camera and preach. And so, but you had to be confident in what you were saying, and you had to believe that to get in front of a camera and preach with nobody up there saying nothing, no musicians, no say rap, none of that. None of that. You got to preach that word, and you got to preach it with strength. And I remember Bishop T.D. Jakes told me to preach to the crowd I want, not the crowd I have.
I love that. I preach that to my clients, to my employees. People say, "Oh, I want to raise, I want to dress for the job."
Yes, the job you want. Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So, talking about some of that practicality and your early stages at the church, what were some of the practical steps? Did you get an air condition? How did you come out?
Yeah. Man, the first thing I did was got an man, we were about to get ready to go through summer too.
Shoot.
So and then they didn't have no insulation in the wall. Oh my God, it was tough, man. It was just a building. So we had to do the AC units and the instruments and all those type of things. And I did some TVs, and that was it. I just kept it, did the bare minimum just to get me where I need to be until I erase that debt. And then after that, then we start working on all of the other practical things, right? And so we do a great job our team do a great job at making sure that we do wellness checkups. You know, every single month, I sit down and call all of the members that we haven't seen in a couple of the Sundays. And, you know, I call every one of my members for their birthday, every single one of them. You know, there's a list she sent me every day, all them birthdays, and I'd be like, yes, let's get along and along, right? Hey, happy birthday. Hey, it's almost like I wish I could copy and paste that greeting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, happy birthday, boom, you know, but, you know, we want to talk. And then every member that's over 60, we send them a card with some money in it. You know, it's just certain things, man, that you got to show people you care. The church growth also can be attributed to the balance of outreach and inreach. Because if the church is only doing outreach and don't care for the people who are providing the resources to do outreach, then they're abandoned. It's a catch-22. So you got to balance the two. So we do certain things for our members, whether it's, you know, our annual Christmas gala with all of our members, or whether it's a quarterly leadership thing. You know, I do a lot with our people, man.
And I did want to talk about that because I know you do a lot with the community.
Yeah.
You have I Matter. You have all the programs you were talking about, turkey giveaway, all that kind of stuff. Tell me, you know, what does that speak to your values and how, you know, because like you said, you get a lot involved with a lot of community stuff. And, you know, just tell me about your community outreach and where that lies up.
Our approach to it is always the need. Like, what is that immediate need? I remember a couple of years ago, I sat down with, I really called them to the table. It was the current mayor at that time. It was superintendent. It was Dickie Brennan. It was a couple of your council persons. It was the president of Dillon University, the president of Xavier University. Then we had a couple of entrepreneurs. I put them all in the room at Windsor Court, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. First of all, I was shocked that they showed up. I was shocked that all of them showed up, right? And so we sit in there and I tell all of them, I say, hey, listen, every one of your needs to me is important. But I need to hear from you all, what are your immediate needs so the church can respond? I'm a liaison. I'm an anomaly, right? I have some moral restrictions, but majority of the time, man, I can be the bridge to really help y'all. The people y'all looking for is coming to me every Sunday. The school system. Jamar McNeely was in that meeting. I said, hey, man, so all them parents that's not showing up to PTA meetings, they at church on Sunday. You get what I'm saying? You know, hey, you know them kids you running behind, they mom and them is on pew number 3. So all of y'all needs are equally important to me, but let's talk about some of the most prevalent needs. And so we start talking about property crime at the time. This before Joseph Yeager died, right? This before that was my guy, man. This before Joe Yeager died. We went to Temple Sinai and we was raising funds with Rabbi Cohn and all of them to attack property crimes, right? The juveniles they was out of control. 228 incidents in one weekend in the city of New Orleans, and Joe Yeager stand up and say, "Hey, man, I can't give my employees a raise because I have to raise the prices of the rooms, and tourists is going down." So how do we fix that problem? Right. And I've always been a solution-oriented guy. We can only talk about that problem for 5 minutes. I can't do people who just talk about problem,
no solution.
and don't come up with no solution. My nerves get bad, right? I don't know if it's ADD. I don't know what it is, but it get real bad, right?
It's a mindset.
Right. Because I'd be like, hey, man, okay, thank you. All right, what's next, right? And so when we raised that money to start doing programs, youth programs and stuff like that, right? And so then we come back and me and Jamar McNeely says, all right, let's do NOLA Love rallies, right? Well, we bring in these influential have them speak to 4,000 or 5,000 kids on a Friday, buy the books from the individuals who's coming to speak and put the books in these kids' hand and just show some love to them. So we'll bring down a Nick Cannon, a Ricky Smiley, Charlemagne the God, a Bishop Jakes, a Robert Smith, Bernice King, all of these people. And so these kids are being exposed, right? Because the currency of today is exposure, right? And so when I had that meeting, our community approach and all those type of things, and whether it's the food and, man, let me tell you my favorite community event. Can I tell you?
Absolutely.
You know,
I can't wait.
Out of 13 years of pastoring that church, out of over $1 million being given back to the community, my greatest event was on my birthday. It's called Mind Over Matter. And we did it underneath the bridge. I called Dickie Brennan. I said, hey, man, I got this weird thought. I said, for my birthday this year, because every year I celebrate my birthday, whether I give away scholarships to kids, we rented out the golf course for everybody, for kids. We done did all that type of stuff for the birthday. Man, I said, I got this crazy thought. I said, what if, right? You know, you got all these festivals, Jazz Fest, French Quarter Fest, you got Essence Fest, I said, what if we threw a fest for the unhoused? He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. I said, just stay with me for a minute. I said, I ain't talking about just going and feed them food. We did it. So on my birthday fell on a Saturday. And so we did Mind Over Matter. We rented out from premium parking. It was like 3 lots underneath the bridge, about Rita Castle Hill and all that. 3 lots, right? We wrapped it around with black paper all around the fence so nobody can see in there, right? We brought out 30 licensed clinical social workers. It was like, you know how you do speed dating? They sit down. So we had each person sit down with those workers for 15 minutes. So let's just say it's bays, right? Because you got the polls, right? That's bay number 1 is the 30 licensed clinical social workers. The second bay, we had all the hospitals, LCMC, Oxnard, everybody, all of them had their mobile units underneath the bridge so they can do their testing. We had NOLA ready. We had everybody out there. The third bay, we took tables between Dickie Brennan and Camilla Beans, right? We white linen all the tables with centerpiece and everything, right? Dickie and them did a whole meal and all that kind of stuff for them. And in the fourth bay, we had Salvation Army bring out their long trailer where they can take showers and wash their clothes. On the side, we had barbers and beauticians. Then we had masseuse giving them massages. Then I put this big old stage on the last bay.
Okay. Me
and Chris Berry, who leads Grace at the Green Light for the unhoused community, we had all kind of entertainers come out there and play live bands. That was a Saturday. That was my birthday, man. And guess what I ate that evening, man? Cane's Chickens on Williams Boulevard in a corner by myself.
They didn't get no bunnies for you? Come on.
That's what I ate, man. Listen, one of my friends called me and said, hey, I know you like crawfish, man. I got 6 sacks of crawfish for you. What you want me to do with it? I said, bring it out here and boil it for them. I said, when was the last time an unhoused person ate crawfish? That evening, I sat in the corner of Cane's by myself on Williams Boulevard before Chase Bang. Ate my 3 fingers, got my bread and my sauce. And I was fulfilled, man. That was my greatest event I ever did for community.
Wow.
That was the greatest one. Yeah.
Was that whole thing your idea?
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's amazing. The different bays and one-stop shop for all the unhoused.
Man, them people had a blast, man. I said, man, let's just do something fun, let them know they loved by somebody. And that's what it was, yeah.
You legitimately put every single person before yourself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you didn't even crawfish on your birthday.
Yeah, you know how hard that hurted. That hurted more than anything.
That's right.
You could have kept the Brennans. But you mean to tell me, no crawfish?
On
6
your birthday?
sacks? Oh, man. I ain't going to say what the next day we got.
No,
After church is over with, I'm going to get my pound of crawfish, man. But it was, huh?
I said, I can't wait for crawfish.
Oh, my God, man. I need it.
So tell me, at what point in the church's growth, and I know you saw growth early on, at what point did you say to yourself, I'm making it and I'm getting there and, you know, I've set this goal and I'm making it?
Man, you know, the craziest thing, we would do 5 a.m. press service, right? Right? I remember doing 5 a.m. press service, and man, you had about 5 people in there. 5 a.m. with 5.
5 a.m. with 5.
Huh? Me and 4 other people, man. And this one particular 5 a.m. press service, this is the church is growing. We're still at 1921, and we about to do a 5 a.m. press service. Check this out. 5 a.m. in the morning. Look at the context. In the 7th ward. NOPD says this is a hot spot every year that I do my briefing with the NOPD. So I do a briefing every year and try to figure out what the 7th ward look like for its crime, what we need to really focus on, what resources we need to bring to the community, right? And it's 5 a.m. press service in the 7th ward. I done rented some golf carts, you know what I mean? And I wake up. I'm waking up at 4. So I had to set the other snooze 4:15.
I know I done that.
I'm just getting up at really 4:15, right? So the guy who leads our security manager called me at 4:30 and said, "Hey, Pastor." I said, "What's up, man?" I said, "I'm coming." You know, I think he calling me to check and see if I'm coming. I was like, "No, I'm coming. I'm gonna be there at such and such time." He's like, "Nah, I ain't call you for that. What I call you for to tell you is that we have no more room in the church at 5
in the morning.
4:15, 4:20. There's no room in the church. We have people," he said, "they got people standing all around the walls right now." I said, "Right now?" Like
4:15 in the morning?
I'm just waking up. I'm coming off of AP and 2 row. They got a line of cars behind me. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how they're gonna get in here. You know, I don't know. At some point we had to tell the people we just don't have no more room. That moment walking through that alley, going and I, you know, all this recorded, man. I got all this video. That morning, walking into that overflow and seeing the amount of people, they was all in the kitchen, man. They had one guy sitting on the sink. I was like, "Hey, man, you don't get off my zinc, man." But it was 5 o'clock in the morning. You couldn't get nowhere in there. I said, "Okay, all right, we on to something. We really on to something. We really on to something."
Yeah, that don't tell you you're on to something.
We really on to something. Mm-hmm. And then this year, here's another thing. And I think every time we grow, the Lord's kind of give me a nudge and remind me that you got something going, man. This year, all right, don't call me crazy, Jonathan. So I get up there and I tell the church, "Hey, we're going to baptize 500 people at our next 5 a.m. press service." And I said it. I said, "You got to register, you know." And I thought they were playing. Man, that morning, so what I did was I told our deacons, I said, "Hey, look, the park across the street, we got to get some of those baptism tubs and put the stage out there, let the praise team sing out there." And man, we baptized 585 people at a 5 a.m. press service on a Saturday morning. I did it because I wanted to know if it was real. If 500 people wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and say they want to be baptized, they serious about getting baptized. Because they can easily come the next time we do baptism on a Sunday morning. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But 583 people got baptized that morning. The 83rd person out of that 583 had just caught a cab out there to get baptized. She said, "I was struggling if I was going to get baptized and I was at home watching it online." So she had a cab. We're in an Uber Lyft age.
Right. She caught a cab.
Yeah, she caught a yellow
A
cab.
yellow cab. That's
Came
right.
out there, jumped out that car, and I was about to get ready to get out the pool. And my deacon said, hey, Pastor, got one more. I said, what? She come flying. She come running around in that gate, baptized, and guess what she did? She got right back in that cab that went home. But it don't end there. Sunday morning, the next day, we baptized 75 more on the spot. And it wasn't even baptism Sunday. I say, look, whoever didn't make it yesterday, y'all come get baptized today. Man, we ran that water, baptizing. We had grown men running down that aisle and got baptized in all of their clothes. They ain't changing nothing. Man, I got all this on footage, man. You can't make this up. Can't make this up. But you're talking about those inclinations that says, hey, you on to something, right? And that's when I see stuff like that, that's very odd, rare, real, and is you can't plan it. You can't plan for that type of stuff.
Right. That's wow.
Yeah,
That's a story.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
And I
jumping out the cab at 5 a.m. to get baptized.
man, listen,
Jump back in.
jump right back in there and went back home.
You got a good following and it seems to grow. How do you get the people keep coming back, right?
Social media, I think social media, you just continue to create solid content, right? And so I don't let them in my personal space. You're not about to hear no mess about this, that, and the third. You're not about to see exactly how I deal with my son. Because, the more you allow people access into those private spaces, the more they start developing this perspective of who they want you to be and who they think you should be. And it's hard to misinterpret silence. Right? So I kind of keep them out of that space. So social media is just real professional. It's either you're going to see the church. That's it. Right. That's all you're saying. As far as the church, there's a question that we ask all of our new partners. Why this church? We try to help them to define that. Like, why you pass up all those other churches to get here? And it causes them to think about it too, right?
Sure.
And we say, if you don't really know that why, anything can take you away from here. But what is the why that you come here? And that's the thing that you're going to have to stick with when things get tough in your personal life or if things get crazy around here, right? Because there's no such thing as a perfect church. And I think another thing that causes our retention to stay consistent is as transparent as I am with them, right? As I don't believe in playing with people, manipulating them. I tell them the truth, it could be something as simple as, if I print out some programs, I tell them, don't y'all leave these programs. I paid too much for them. Yeah. Let's stop playing with people's minds. And so I would, attribute that to that. And we just stay active. And, one person told me in our new partners class just yesterday, she said, I joined this church because of what you do for the community. And that's drawing power right there, man. As much as we give credence to all those other things, it's just that they see the love of God in action. And as long as they see that, man, they're drawn to stuff like that.
I got you. So, speaking of that, what makes Rock of Ages different?
We love hard. We love hard, man. We really love hard. I read this book called Tribe, and Tribe talks about the problem in the church is not the people connecting to the leader. The problem in the church is not the leader connecting to the vision. The problem in the church is the people connecting to the people.
Okay, I got you.
You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times we think development and leadership is all vertical.
Right.
The base of it is horizontal.
That makes so much sense.
Right. If you get people to start, learning how to deal with each other, compassion, forgiveness. And I always like to tell people, if you can mix paint, you can mix personalities. Yeah,
I like that.
It's a certain style to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, but as long as I have them crossing the aisles, I get it all the time. They disagreeing. This one don't like this one, and I'm crazy enough to be like, "Hey, y'all two, come here. Let me talk to y'all. Hey, look, y'all go solve that on the side."
Right. So that horizontal aspect.
My approach is all horizontal.
You've done that deliberately.
Oh, very intentionally, man. Hey, you can come on a Sunday morning at our church. I'll be sitting in the pews with them. I'll be sitting midway, man, up in there praising the Lord, and nobody moved by it. They're like, "Oh, he always do that." It's them feeling like, "Hey, man, we come here for one reason and one reason alone: to serve God."
So, looking back on all your successes and everything that you've done for the church and the community, what's one thing that still shocked that you did it, that you surprised yourself?
Man, I baptized my son. Man, that can be tricky, man. That can be tricky when you're going through divorce. and you're separating from your kid, like he can decide he can get baptized with his mom, and they go to church too.
Mhm.
And they from Lake Charles. So, but when he came to me, he said, "I don't want nobody else to baptize me but you."
That's it.
Man,
That's easy.
I don't have nothing else to even compare. I was like, for
Absolutely.
real? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man. I mean, he came up in there as calm as he want to, man. Another thing that I just pride myself on. My son go to NOCA full time. He was at ISL, and he came to me. He said, Dad, all of my friends going to Ben Franklin. I said, okay, cool, man. I said, where you want to go? He said, I'm going to go to Ben Franklin. I want to hang with my friends. We've been together since kindergarten. I said, okay, all right, bet. He said, look, but I won't go to NOCA half a day, right? Part-time. I said, all right, cool. So we did the application for NOCA and all that kind of stuff. They come back and tell him when his audition is. I'm sitting in the living room, speaking of crawfish. I'm sitting in the living room eating crawfish. And he walks in after school, and I'm asking him about his day and all that. He's like, it's great. He's like, hey, Dad, look, I have February the 14th. I remember, it was Valentine's Day. He said, I have my audition that Saturday morning for NOCA, for the part-time thing. I said, all right, son. Oh, man, that's amazing, man. I'm still eating my crawfish, right? Watching Scandal or something. I don't know what I was doing. And so I go and I say, hey, you want me to make a phone call for you? Because I got some friends over there in NOCA, And he goes in his room, come out of his room 5 seconds later. I don't even know what he went in there for. I don't know if he had to go make up his mind or what. He come back out and he's like, no, I don't want you to make a call for me. He said, let me do it on my own. Man, I took the biggest crawfish I had and just slung that crawfish. Boy, yes. You get what I'm saying? Yes.
That's what you
right.
want, right.
He called me that morning for the audition and he said, Dad, pray for me. I'm kind of nervous. So I prayed for him. And then he go through the audition. Now, when the results came in, me and his mother got the email, but we never checked it. It was an oversight on my behalf. He wound up being the first person to get the results. And so he opened it, the email, he got accepted. Oh, he going crazy. He calling everybody. He didn't call my mama. He didn't call everybody until he got accepted. 3 weeks later, we riding in the car. We going to escape room because me and him do escape room every Saturday for brain stimulation, right? He says, if they gave me part-time, I know they can give me full-time. He said, I'm going to reapply. I said, that bug done got on you, boy.
Apple don't fall far, huh?
That drive done got on him now.
Yeah.
That's my greatest accomplishment, man, is to see it stick, and to see him pick up not just the personality traits, it's for him to pick up that drive, that dog.
Right.
And not to sit back and feel like my son, he could have easily asked me to call anybody, but he don't ask me. He want to do it on his own.
And he did it as a kid.
And he did it as a 14-year-old, man. And so if you want to talk about the church thing, man, I would really say it was Ted Gomlet. There's no possible way I thought 10,000 people were showing up.
That's amazing.
Hey, man, you couldn't bet me no kind of amount of money. Yeah, I started with 3. There's his brother, and I hope his name is Corey Jones. We grew up together. Every Sunday, man, when I walked through that back door to come to church, he looked at me and said, "They got more than 3 in there." He know, as long as they got more than 3, I'm fine.
You good.
So Ted Gormley, I was saying, as long as we have more than 800, I'm fine. Because that's all I can fit within 35. And remember, I couldn't go there anyway. So whatever came, I was fine with it.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So it didn't bother me. But when 10,000 showed up, I was saying 6, 7. And so Audrey, who's over there at City Park, he's like, nah, pal, no. The stadium only seat 27,000. You filled up a whole half, man.
A whole half.
A whole half. And they wouldn't stop coming.
Wow.
If we would have had service another hour, the people were swinging around outside of the site of the LED walls.
I said, where they parking out there?
I don't know. They had a lot of parking problems out there.
So are we doing that again this year?
Man, for Easter this year, we're going to Xavier Convocation Center.
Okay.
Xavier they call me every time. They be like, Pastor, you can just have it.
All right.
I was at a graduation. I was speaking for, can't remember what school graduation this year. Last year. And she come up to me, she was like, hey, Pastor, you know y'all coming here for Easter? I like, so you telling us we coming up here? It's like, yeah, y'all just have church here for Easter. It's gonna be fine. I said, yeah, I figured that. So, about 4,000 or 5,000 people, and we're gonna have that.
So you're gonna have to limit it this year because you had 10,000 last year, right? Shoot.
Man, it's
and you keep growing and growing.
Just keep on growing, man. We did a Laria Center for the West Bank Heritage Festival, and I was like, here's another moment that make you say, okay, all right, man, something cooking, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go to the West Bank, to the Laria Center. We packed out the whole Laria Center. Hey, man, we had more than 3. And we had more than the 2,000 I could fit in the church. I'm a goal guy. Long as I hit that capacity, all right, cool. Right. We could have had 2,001.
Right. That's one more.
It's just one more,
That's
and I'm fine that I tilted my cap. But we did that this year, man, and so they want us to come back. We did that last year. They want us to come back this year. It's like that's the first time we ever had that many people here at the West Bank Festival that Sunday morning.
Wow. And when is that?
Second Sunday in September.
Second Sunday in September. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about mentoring young kids and, the I Matter program. Mm-hmm. Talk to me, tell us a little bit about how, what mentoring those young kids means to you.
A couple of levels to that, Jonathan. Number one, for me, because I'm a very intentional guy as it relates to investments, right? I like to always find out not who I can be a mentor to, but who can be a mentee. And I have this philosophy that everybody who need help, that know they need help, might not want help from you.
That's true.
They know they need it.
Right.
They gonna sink without it, but they just don't want you to help them. So the assessments that we normally do with majority of our teenage boys and our girls and our church, and we don't do your traditional Sunday school. We try our best to do like different course corrections and development and vision boards and all these different type of programs during our time that these kids will be in church. We kind of do like a lot of, self-awareness and self-development. We even take 10 boys to Steve Harvey mentoring camp every year in Atlanta, right? They go out there for Father's Day. All these young brothers who don't have a father, who father is nowhere in their life, we take them to Atlanta, all expenses paid. We take them out there on Steve Harvey Ranch. They get to meet all these different celebrities, do polo, get the haircuts. I mean, they do all kind of stuff, man. They exercise, meet a bunch of friends from around the country. And so we do all of those type of things. And if the kid come to us and don't want to be mentored by us, we refer them like Son of the Saint, Son and all those guys, or we go to Silverback, so we send them to Heroes in New Orleans or Community Avengers. So I sit on a couple of those boards with those nonprofit organizations, and we just kind of like get them in the right program that fit, that they can receive from and they can develop, right? So it's not forced, right? Yeah. So that's the kids, that's the teens. But then when we get to the entrepreneurs, just recently, last year, we put 250 entrepreneurs at the Windsor Court for a luncheon, because I try my best to touch our entrepreneur sector in our church and try to empower them and give them resources in order for them to scale up, scale down, whatever that is. So I sit on the board for Tulane Innovation Institute, where we try to diversify as much money as we possibly can through some of the alums and try to allocate that money to entrepreneurs that's in the city. And sometimes we go to the women, and sometimes we go to the men. Sometimes we go specifically to those who can contribute to the bio district, right? And sometimes we deal with those who are dealing with the medical field. So it's different layers, you know what I mean, that we try to touch.
And that's through I Matter?
Through I Matter, yeah.
And that's something that you started?
Yeah. I Matter Leaders Institute was our thing, man. The first year I did it for free. I just invited all of our entrepreneurs from the church, and I brought in these different specialists, whether they was writing out business plans, whether it was financiers, whether it was teaching them how to pitch and do social relationships and networking, all kinds of stuff, man. Did they headshots for them. We did everything for them. And then the following year, we did it at Thrive Community Center. And we brought in, once again, some of your great people, Judge Kelvin Johnson. We brought in several people, the mayor, all those people to talk to them about how they could economically advance themselves and scale up and make sure their business is positioned in the right place, so that when things start shifting and changing, they can touch on the global financiers, people who their money is not just here, there's money everywhere. You know what I mean? And really trying to help them, expose them to a larger scale of things.
That's an amazing program. So, yeah. I mean, that's, and I got a soft spot for kids. I got 2 kids of my own. I got a 4 and
Yeah.
an 8-year-old.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
when I asked you the question about one thing you remember and you remember baptizing a kid, that
Yeah.
touched me. So I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that with me. But talking about I Matter, if with such a great program, how can someone get involved? How can
Oh
a kid
man,
get
all they gotta
involved?
do is go to Jonathan Everett Ministries, J Everett Ministries, and
Mhm.
all the information is there for them to connect with it. I think it's a great program, honestly.
Do they have to be a member of your congregation?
No. We try our best not to restrict it to that because majority of the people who really need the work, man, is they outside of the margins, right? They outside of the church. And that's been another approach that I think it's contributed to our growth, is that I never try to pastor within the 4 walls. I've always said that I don't pastor a church, I pastor a city. I've always said that. I've always told our team that. I always told them I'm not looking at whether or not they come here every Sunday. Because majority of the people who would talk to me and would speak to me and would have these long conversations, they was outside the church. Y'all never seen them on a Sunday morning. I see them in the courtrooms. I see them on the street.
Right.
And so I always wanted to pastor a church without walls.
Right.
Just everybody, man. Just be who you are to everybody.
I like that. So for the young people that are listening, the people that are like you and me, that are hungry, driven, don't take no for an answer. What's advice you give to them if they're just starting out, whether it's trying to do something in the community, whether they're trying to start their own church, whether they're trying to start their own law firm, that grit and that drive. What's some advice that you'd give to a young man?
Don't ignore your blind spots too long. Those dark areas are there for a reason, right? Dark areas, blind spots exist only in the absence of light. Darkness is not quantifiable. The only reason why darkness exists is because the light is not on. The sooner you can find somebody who can turn your light on, there's somebody mastering the area that you're struggling in. Period. Somebody somewhere on this earth, whether you're suffering in finances, whether you're suffering in parenting, whatever it is that you're suffering, somebody's mastering that area. And the sooner you find that mentor, I was at JJIC, Juvenile Justice Center, and the young people were saying the reason why they're in that predicament because they didn't have a mentor. And so I had to break it down to them that life is not wrapped in one mentor. Like, you got to have multiple mentors, man.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for one person to save you, you're looking for Jesus. If you're going to make it in this life, man, you need multiple mentors. You need a mentor who can help you with business. You need a mentor who can help you with marriage and relationship. You need a mentor to keep you sane.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't want to reach out for help because they want to do it on themselves. What I tell people is, look, I have a mentor.
Yeah.
And I mentor people. And my mentor has a mentor.
Yes.
And his mentor has a mentor.
Yes.
Because everyone needs help.
Yes. Hey, man, listen. I like to tell people, especially men, I particularly tell men this. You do not have to fight as hard as you fight to prove that you can survive. Just the mere fact you're alive, I know you're a survivor. You know how hard it is to stay sane in 2026?
I know.
You know what I mean? So you don't have to prove a point to nobody. The point is, we got it. You're a man. You know how to pay your bills. You can handle your business. We got it. But that still doesn't give you an excuse to suffer in the area somebody right down the street has perfected. And it don't make you no less to go to the right people and get the right information, because exposure, man.
So what would you tell someone who's resistant to go ask for help?
I would tell them until they let go of that pride and that ego, because it don't, I tell a story all the time. There's 2 doctors, a lawyer, and a judge, and another friend. There's 5 of them that go out to the mountains, and they messed around and seen a creek on the side, man. They all go out there by the creek, and the 2 doctors, the lawyer, the judge, they standing there. The other friend just jumped in there. He gets out. Then the doctor said, "Bro, you jumped in there?" Boom, the 2 doctors jumped in there. One of the doctors was drowning. And so the doctor, the lawyer, and the judge standing there with the other friend, and they looking at the other friend, and they say, "Man, you ain't gonna go help him or nothing like that?" And he was a professional swimmer. And he said, I can't help him until he start resisting. He said, if I jump in that water with him right now, he's going to drown me too. The moment you stop fighting to try to survive and embrace the resources and the help that come to help you, I like to tell people all the time, man, I do believe there's still good people on this earth. I do not believe everybody trying to destroy me or try to kill me. I believe there's still some good people on this earth, man. You got to embrace that in spite of all you went through, all the trauma, all that stuff that people have experienced. I still believe there's good people on this earth.
Absolutely.
You can't pay me to believe that everybody's bad.
Right. I think it's just like, certain industries, like lawyers, you
Yeah.
got a few bad lawyers. 2% of the lawyers, make,
Yeah. You can't speak for everybody.
You can't speak
man.
for everybody.
No.
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 Well, that you got an amazing story, Pastor Everett. Thank you so much for being
No,
on the show.
man,
Look,
thank
I
you.
got a couple more questions.
Oh,
I like to call these my rapid fire questions.
Uh-oh.
All right, you gotta come on with it quick.
All right, cool.
All right. Favorite New Orleans dish? What you got?
Crawfish.
What about a go-to snowball flavor?
Wedding cake with condensed milk on top.
Stop it.
Yes, indeed.
That's mine.
No way.
Come on. Jonathan.
You serious?
I swear to God.
Oh,
I swear to God.
yeah, man.
Condensed milk. You know
wedding
what
cake.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And your most memorable, besides obviously baptizing your son.
Yeah.
Because that's I know that's the first.
Yeah.
But the most memorable sermon you ever gave.
Tag Gormley.
Tag on.
I preached a sermon, Jesus. That's it.
Was that was Easter?
That was it. Yeah, that was it.
That was Easter.
That was it.
Wow.
All those people and everybody right now, a lot of my friends from around the country was calling me saying, man, thank you for doing that. Because at that time, preaching was being criticized whether or not we was becoming motivational speakers and whether or not our focus was off from the main course, and that is Jesus. So in front of 10,000 people, I just got out there and said the title of our sermon is Jesus. That's all I preach.
I got to ask you, because I've talked in front of a few hundred people, maybe 1,000. What's the difference, as public speaking, what's the difference between, talking to 300, 400, 500 people versus 10,000? I mean, to you, was that intimidating? Was that when you got up there and there's so many people, you can't even see them all at the same time?
Well, for me, I was privileged to speak in front of close to 50,000 in Kampala, Uganda, about 4 years ago. Man, we couldn't see it. It was so far. They started putting up like speakers down the road, added speakers. And then I had a translator at that time too. So it was even more challenging to speak to. And then I'm from New Orleans too.
Yeah,
it makes it worse for the interpreter, He over there dancing. I'm like, I ain't say dance. But it was close to 50,000 people. So by the time I got in front of 10,000, I think the overwhelming emotion for me is, man, I can't believe this happened in my city. I don't think it was the preaching for me as much as I got very emotional because I said, I can't believe this is in this city where people keep saying that we voodoo and we curse and stuff like that. So when I seen 10,000, I say, man, where these people come from? You know what I mean? And then after seeing them 10,000, the amount of people around the country who've been trying to have spiritual conferences down here because they seen that gathering, because they say, boy, that's a pocket. That's an audience. If 10,000 showed up to that, I know I can get 5,000 out the next event that I do out there. From your biggest names in the Christian faith, they've been trying to do small conferences down here because of that day. I will go on record saying this because I did my research. We was the second largest gathering in the country of a church with 10,000.
Wow.
In the whole United States of America.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
So what's the goal now, to have the biggest?
Yeah, we might go to Superdome.
I'll be there, baby.
Hey, I ain't never scared. Hey, look, I ain't jumping out the sky though with the rope and all that. Nah, I'm gonna come up from the side and be like, Forstall.
Yeah, you're right.
Take
Call
care of them all.
I'll come swing from the rope for you, baby. That's right. Well, look, I want to round us out today. We could talk for hours past that. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, man.
Look,
thank you for
tell the audience if they want to come see your sermon, how they can find you, where they can come see you.
Oh, man, every Sunday at 9:15 at 2515 Franklin Avenue. You can tune in to Heaven 106.6. We have close to 20,000 people listen to us every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. And then Monday through Friday, we're on social media from 7 a.m. to 7:30. Close to 5,000 people. PASS Everett, Everett. That's our handle on Instagram. And then Wednesday night at 7 p.m. we have Bible study. We have a large group of people there on Wednesday nights. So that's the times, man. That's the time.
Well, thank you so much for being on my show
thank
again.
You, man.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week. From NOLA with the Forstalls is presented by Jonathan and Chip Forstall. Executive producer, Mona Lisa Johnson, Sierra Media Productions. Host, Jonathan Forstall. Casting director, Jonathan Thomas, Ascension Branding and Marketing. Post-production editor and voiceover talent, Matt Pawlowski, Redline Studios in New York City. Produced by Ascension Branding and Marketing and Sierra Media Productions. Thanks for listening.